Similar? Like, all right? Which would you say is stronger? A shepherd is like a teacher, or a teacher is like a shepherd? And?
The inverse again.
That's right. Always. Invariable property of an archetypal analogy. Okay, we'll use that. We'll use that. Now, let's do it now. Let's break it apart. By the way, the principles of humor and tragedy can be seen in this. If you want, we can have some fun and play. I'll show you how the principles of comedy and tragedy emerge from a four-term analogy. Okay, but first, before we play, let's do this. I have my basic four terms. Shepherd is to his sheep as, what shall we use? A doctor is to his patients. Let's change it. All right, A is to B as C is to D. Now, what you must do is to expand the analogy is add terms to the first ratio in a particular order, in a particular order, in a particular order. As an example, as you think of the way a shepherd relates to his sheep, is it likely that he may need something to help him? They always go up usually with 2 lions and a broken club, don't they? A dog! Oh! Now watch. A shepherd, then, is to his dog. What else might he need if he's going up there in the mountains for a while?
Staff. Yeah.
A staff? What else might he need? A tent? He's going to spend a tent? Might he also use, must he not, let's call it tent and supplies. Must he not also have a knowledge of Brooklyn?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
All shepherds must have a knowledge of Brooklyn, otherwise we'll banish them. Do you agree they must have a knowledge of the terrain?
Yes.
They must also have a knowledge of the sheep. And would you agree they must need one more thing? Sheep. Right? So we have expanded the ratio, the shepherd is to his sheep, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 terms. Keeping the same order of these terms means that when you now must look for parallel terms for the second ratio, you must go in the same order that you established for the first set. Ideally, it should fit into some natural sequence if you can do so. So, I'll tell you what, here we do it. We'll put the doctor here next to the shepherd and patients here. Now, how do you get the missing terms? You must ask yourself curious kind of analogical questions. I'll start with one, all right? As a shepherd must use a dog to help him with his sheep, so a doctor must use something or someone to help him with his patients. Nurse. What?
Appreciate it.
Chloe?
Dog and nurse, but yeah, I don't think they'd appreciate it.
All right, look here, try it again. If a shepherd, shepherd staffs are rather curious, aren't they?
Yeah.
In the old days, because they then use them to take wandering sheep and lambs from dangerous circumstances, right, and pull them out of the way of danger and precipices and things of that nature. So, As a shepherd may use a staff with his sheep, so a doctor may use what? Some instrument, some special instrument that will help him bring his patients out of danger. Whatever that might be. Now notice we're using this word function. All right, so let's try it. As a shepherd needs a tent and supplies for his journey to protect the sheep and bring them back, so a doctor may use a office, medical office, or a hospital, or some kind of clinic, may not, right, to help his patients. Agree? All right. As a shepherd must have knowledge of the terrain in order to be able to work with his sheep, so a doctor must have knowledge of
Body.
No, that would be knowledge of sheep.
what's the difference between these two kinds of knowledge? Knowledge of the training, knowledge of the sheep.
Oh, knowledge of.
Well, what diseases and illnesses?
What's
What's illnesses and diseases and the other has to
Of,
the body.
you know, in the ancient days,
It has to be medicine.
in the ancient days, what was curious is that no Greek physician in the classic age ever treated a patient unless he did two things. One is, yes, he would check the dreams, and the most important thing he would do, since most physicians in those days traveled, is that they'd always make a test of the water. Always. And the only places they ever established their facilities, invariably it had to have two things: a fresh stream or hot springs. That was just simply a constant throughout the ancient world. So would you agree? Our physician, we're going to say, should have knowledge of the terrain in which his patients come from.
Oh, history. The history of the patient.
Pardon?
The history of
The history, the background, right? Especially the environment.
Right.
Oh, by the way, as a shepherd must have knowledge of sheep in order to take care of the sheep, so a doctor should have knowledge of
Patient's body.
patient's body, anatomy, physiology, etc. Ah, I see. Now, what you've done is expanded a four-terminology to, right, with only two ratios. You've now extended the number of terms in our two terminology to 7, haven't we? So we have two ratios with 7 terms each, and for each we have a corresponding one, do we not? That functions in a similar way, not the same way, similar way. Right, because if it was exactly the same way that a shepherd took care of his sheep, then most doctors would take their patients up to the mountains, wouldn't they? And they'd get in trouble because the doctor would probably get them loaded on grass. What are you laughing for? I'm just doing an analogy. That's how you, pardon me, that's how you generate comedies from an analogy. Right? You take it literally and have fun, and that's where comedy comes from, analogies. Okay, look here. We have expanded the number, and we found for each of our terms a corresponding term that functions in a similar but not the same way. Agree? If you ignore the similar and take it same, you generate comedies. If you look for differences, you generate tragedies, by the way. That's a basic fundamental difference between tragedy and comedy, and maybe we'll have some fun going over that after, all right? But you can see it. All right, next. When you have an expanded analogy, such as we have now, of 14 terms in 2 sets or 2 ratios, if we add a story or a drama to it, then the analogy becomes an allegory. Let's do it.